I never thought I'd say this, but my best friend's betrayal hurt me more than my own husband's infidelity. The pain of losing someone you trust is like a slow-motion car crash. It's chaotic, it's devastating, and it leaves you questioning everything you thought was true. And for me, that realization changed everything. My name is Sarah, and I'm still trying to process the pain and betrayal that unfolded in my life a few years ago. My close friend, Emily, was more than just a friend. She was my confidante, my partner in crime, and my sister from another mother. We met in college, bonding over our shared love of adventure and late-night talks about everything under the sun. Over the years, we became inseparable, sharing our deepest secrets, supporting each other through thick and thin. As I look back, I realized that the signs were there all along, but I chose to ignore them. We'd been friends for over a decade, and our friendship had become this perfect facade, or so I thought. There were little things at first. She'd cancel plans at the last minute, saying her family obligations came up, but I never questioned it because we were always there for each other, weren't we? And then there was that one time she mentioned her sister's birthday party, but when I asked to meet her family, she brushed it off, saying they didn't really celebrate birthdays. It was just a small thing, but now it makes me wonder, what else was she hiding? I remember the way she'd look at me sometimes, this intensity in her eyes that made me feel like she was searching for something. I thought it was just admiration for our friendship, but looking back, I'm not so sure. And then there were the times we'd talk about our relationships and marriages. She'd make these little comments about how easy it was to get away with certain things. I shrugged them off as harmless, but now they make my blood run cold. It's funny how you can see something clearly in hindsight, but at the time, I just chalked it up to paranoia. But as I look back, I realize that those tiny cracks in our friendship were actually warning signs, and I missed them. It was a casual dinner party at our favorite restaurant, the kind where we'd laugh and gossip for hours. But it wasn't until Sarah's husband joined us that something felt off. I remember her introducing him as just a friend, but there was an awkwardness in her tone, like she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. As the night went on, they exchanged these little glances, and I found myself wondering what was really going on between them. They'd touch each other's arms, their shoulders would brush together. It was all so subtle, but it made me feel uneasy. And then, out of nowhere, Sarah's husband starts telling the story about his business trip to LA and how he ran into an old colleague who just happened to be a woman. I remember feeling a knot in my stomach as I watched them laugh and chat like nothing was wrong, when in reality something felt terribly wrong. The way they interacted with each other, the way Sarah's eyes lit up whenever her husband spoke, it all clicked into place for me in that moment. And I realized with crushing clarity that our friendship had been built on a lie. I remember walking around my apartment in a daze, feeling like I was trapped in a nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. It's hard to describe the numbness, the shock, the denial all wrapped together in this thick fog that seemed to suffocate me. I kept replaying our conversations, trying to pinpoint where things had started to unravel, but every memory felt tainted now. As I navigated these feelings, the anger was like a stormy sea, waves crashing against me with every memory of my friend's betrayal. I couldn't believe she had been lying to me all this time, using our friendships as an excuse to keep her secret safe. I lashed out at her in ways I never thought possible, words spilling out of me like venom, each one a reminder of the pain and hurt she'd caused. But beneath the anger, sadness seeped in like a slow-moving fog. I felt lost and alone, wondering how someone I trusted so much could do this to me. Every memory we'd shared, every laugh, every inside joke, it all seemed tainted now. I couldn't help but think about what else she might have lied about. And then there was the guilt, a heavy weight that pressed down on my chest. Had I been blind to her manipulations? Should I have seen the signs earlier? The questions swirled in my head like a tornado, leaving me breathless and bewildered. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of emotions, unsure which way to swim or how to escape the wreckage of our friendship. As time passed, I couldn't help but wonder if our friendship was just a facade all along. The laughter we shared, the secrets we kept, it all seemed tainted by her deception. Our group of friends started to take sides, with some defending her actions and others condemning them. But for me, there was no gray area. She had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. As I grappled with the weight of my friend's betrayal, I had to confront a harsh truth: that I'd been enabling her behavior for months. I remembered how often she'd cancel plans at the last minute, or make excuses for not showing up to events. At first, I thought it was just stress or personal issues, but looking back, I realize I turned a blind eye because I didn't want to rock the boat. I wanted our friendship to remain perfect, and so I ignored the red flags. But ignoring them only made things worse. I'd cover for her, make excuses to others when she wasn't around. It was like I was perpetuating the lie. It's a painful realization, but I had to own up to my part in enabling her betrayal. I asked myself, what if I'd spoken up sooner? Would things have turned out differently? The question swirled in my head, and for a while, I felt lost and uncertain about our friendship. But as the days passed, I began to see that confronting my own role was the first step towards healing and moving forward. Rebuilding trust after being betrayed by a close friend is like trying to put together a puzzle with missing pieces. You know the picture should be clear, but every time you think you've made progress, another piece slips away. I remember feeling like I was stuck in limbo, unsure if I should even try to rebuild what had been shattered. For months, I attempted to recreate our friendship, hoping that we could move forward as if nothing had happened. But the more I tried to fill in the gaps, the more I felt like I was suffocating under the weight of my own expectations. I began to wonder if trust was something that could ever be truly rebuilt, or if it was just a myth perpetuated by Hallmark cards and romantic comedies. As time went on, I realized that trying to rebuild trust can actually be a form of self-sabotage. It's like holding on to a damaged vase and pretending everything is fine when, in reality, the cracks are still there. Even now, years later, I'm still trying to pick up the pieces of my shattered trust. The betrayal by my so-called best friend cut deep, leaving scars that refuse to heal. It's not just about the friendship we had. It's about the ripple effect it had on every aspect of my life. Looking back, I realize how easy it was to overlook the warning signs. My friend's sudden changes in behavior, her increasing distance from our social circle. I wrote it off as busyness, a phase. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The way she would cancel plans at the last minute, or forget important details about me. It was like she was living two separate lives, and I was just a part of one of them. As I look back, I realize that's exactly what was happening with our friendship. She was living two separate lives. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that keeping a secret is harmless, but the truth is, every time we hide something from someone we care about, it's like piling on a weight that slowly crushes us. The more we keep hidden, the more we feel like we're walking on eggshells, never knowing when the other person will discover what we've been keeping from them. I remember feeling anxious all the time, wondering if she would ever find out about her husband's infidelity, and what that would mean for our friendship. It was exhausting trying to keep up this charade of a perfect relationship when everything else was crumbling around us. And it wasn't just me who suffered. Her secrecy had already started to erode the trust in our friendship, making it harder for both of us to be honest with each other. As the betrayal sank in, I couldn't shake off the feeling of helplessness. It was as if I'd been punched in the gut, leaving me gasping for air. Every conversation, every interaction with Sarah felt tainted by her deceit. I began to question my own judgment, wondering how someone so close could do this to me. The weight of that betrayal pressed down on me like a physical force, making it hard to breathe. Rebuilding self-trust was a journey I never thought I'd have to take. But after what Emily did, I realized that trust wasn't just something you gave to others, but also to yourself. For weeks, I felt like I was walking on eggshells, wondering if every smile or kind word was a lie waiting to happen. Simple tasks became monumental challenges, making decisions, taking care of myself, even leaving the house without feeling anxious. It's not just about who you trust. It's also about trusting yourself to make good choices. As I reflect on our friendship, I realize that there were moments when my best friend's behavior should have raised a red flag. She'd always make excuses for her husband's absence or infidelity, saying things like, "He's just stressed," or "Men are flawed." At first, I brushed it off as loyalty and understanding, but looking back, those comments were the beginning of a pattern. As I reflect on that time in my life, I realize how crucial communication was in preventing this betrayal. If there's one thing I've learned from this experience, it's the importance of being open and honest with those closest to us. As I delved deeper into the complexities of betrayal by a close friend, I spoke with someone who had experienced this very same pain. Her name is Sarah, and she's still grappling with the aftermath of her best friend's deceit. According to Dr. Karen Ruskin, a renowned psychologist specializing in relationships, when we're betrayed by someone we trust, it can be like losing a part of ourselves. For Sarah, that loss was devastating. She had confided in her friend about her struggles with anxiety and infertility, only to discover that her friend had been secretly mocking her behind her back. Sarah's story highlights the insidious nature of betrayal by a close friend. It's often not just about the hurtful words or actions, but also about the sense of abandonment and rejection. As one expert pointed out, when someone you trust betrays you, it can make you question your own worth. Sarah's experience is a poignant reminder that even in our closest relationships, there can be hidden agendas and ulterior motives. And for those who have been betrayed, the road to healing and recovery can be long and arduous. For me, the guilt was suffocating. It consumed every waking moment, every decision I made. I couldn't look my friend in the eye without feeling a wave of shame wash over me. We'd been friends for over a decade, and I thought we were close enough to trust each other with our deepest secrets. But then she revealed that she'd been using our friendship as an excuse to get closer to my ex-husband, manipulating him into investing in her business ventures. The pain was palpable, but it was the guilt that cut me the deepest. Why hadn't I seen it coming? What had I done wrong? Had I inadvertently enabled her behavior by being too trusting? As I looked back on our friendship, I saw all the red flags I'd ignored, the times she'd pushed boundaries, and I'd let her get away with it. The guilt was a constant companion, making me question my own judgment and self-worth. And yet, every time I thought about confronting her about what had happened, I hesitated. Fear of losing our friendship, fear of being hurt more, held me back. It's a toxic dynamic that can keep people trapped in cycles of guilt and shame for years, even after the betrayal has ended. As I reflect on my journey to forgiveness, I'm reminded that it's a process, not a destination. Forgiving myself took time, literally years, but it was essential in moving forward. I had to acknowledge the pain and hurt caused by a friend's name's betrayal and confront the emotions that lingered long after the incident. It's funny how we often expect forgiveness from others when they've wronged us, but rarely do we take the time to forgive ourselves. For me, it meant accepting my own vulnerability and trusting someone who ultimately let me down. I remember the countless sleepless nights spent replaying conversations and wondering what I could have done differently. It's a vicious cycle that can keep people trapped in guilt and shame for years. But what I've come to realize is that forgiveness isn't about erasing the past. It's about releasing its hold on us. By letting go, we create space for healing and growth, and that's where true freedom begins. Rebuilding relationships after a betrayal is one of the toughest challenges we face. It's like trying to rebuild a bridge that's been torn apart by a fierce storm. But with patience, effort, and the right strategies, it's possible to mend those broken connections. First, you need to set boundaries. This means establishing clear limits on what you're willing and not willing to tolerate from your friend or loved one. It's like drawing a line in the sand, saying this far, but no further. Sarah did this when her best friend lied to her about their plans for the weekend. She said, "I need some space. I need you to respect my boundaries. And slowly, they started rebuilding trust. But boundaries alone aren't enough. You also need to practice empathy. Try to understand where your friend or loved one is coming from, even if it's hard to forgive what they did. Rachel did this when her sister cheated on her partner. She realized that her sister was struggling with insecurities and low self-esteem, which led her to make a choice she thought would bring her happiness. By practicing empathy, Rachel was able to connect with her sister on a deeper level and help her work through her issues. And finally, don't be afraid to seek support from others. This could be a therapist, a trusted family member, or even an online community of people who have gone through similar experiences. Building a support network can help you feel less isolated and more empowered to rebuild your relationships. As I navigated the aftermath of Sarah's betrayal, I realized that taking care of myself was crucial. It wasn't just about patching up my emotional wounds or rebuilding my relationships with others. It was also about honoring my own needs. For me, self-care meant getting back into yoga and meditation, practices that had always brought me peace. But it also meant setting boundaries, not allowing myself to be guilt-tripped into staying in touch with Sarah or being drawn back into the toxic dynamic we'd created. I started small, taking long walks during my lunch breaks and writing in a journal before bed. These simple acts helped me regain control over my time and energy, and allowed me to focus on what truly mattered: healing myself. It wasn't easy. There were days when I felt like I was barely holding it together. But with each passing week, I began to feel stronger, more grounded, more confident. It's funny how quickly we can forget our own needs in the face of trauma or heartache. We prioritize others' comfort and happiness over our own, thinking that it's selfless or noble. But what if taking care of ourselves was the most selfless act of all? What if it was essential to our very survival? As I sat in that quiet cafe, sipping my coffee, I couldn't help but think about the friend who had broken my trust. The one who had lied to me, manipulated me, and ultimately hurt me so deeply. Finding closure with someone like that seemed impossible. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that closure might not be what we're truly searching for. For some of us, closure is a myth, a fleeting concept that we chase but never quite grasp. Think of it like trying to fill an endless void. No matter how much we pour into it, there's always more space left over. And yet we keep hoping, keep pushing, because the thought of living with this pain forever is unbearable. I recall a conversation I had with my therapist where she said something that stuck with me. Sometimes closure isn't about resolving the issue, but about learning to live alongside it. It's a painful truth, but one we must confront if we want to heal. And even then, healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means finding a way to carry on, scars and all. As I reflect on the journey that brought me here, I'm reminded of a phrase my therapist used. The pain of others is not diminished by their betrayal. It's easy to get caught up in anger and resentment, but that energy only perpetuates the cycle of hurt. If you're going through something like this, don't be fooled into thinking that time will heal all wounds. Time might dull the edges, but it won't erase the pain. I remember when my friend finally confessed her infidelity, the way she broke down in tears, begging for forgiveness. It was a moment of raw emotion, one that left me reeling. But as I stood there, trying to process what had happened, I realized that her apology wasn't about me. It was about herself. She'd been carrying around this secret for years, and finally, she couldn't bear the weight anymore. If you are dealing with a betrayal like this, remember that forgiveness isn't always about the other person. It's often about your own healing. And that process is messy, imperfect, and takes time. As I look back on this experience, I'm reminded that healing from betrayal isn't just about fixing the person who hurt you. It's about rediscovering yourself. It's like coming out of a dark tunnel and into the bright sunlight, but your eyes need time to adjust. For me, that meant taking tiny steps every day, allowing myself to feel the emotions that had been locked away for so long. I remember the first time I laughed after everything went down. It was like a dam broke inside me, and all these pent-up tears came flooding out. It wasn't easy, but I learned to be gentle with myself, to acknowledge my feelings without judgment. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done in years, and writing about the pain helped me process it. Looking back, I realized that healing isn't a linear path. It's more like a spiral staircase. You go up, you come back down, but each time you're stronger, wiser. And that's what I want to pass on to anyone who's been through something similar. Patience, self-care, and growth are key to moving forward. As we close this chapter, remember that rebuilding trust is a marathon, not a sprint. It takes every ounce of strength you have, but the reward is worth it. A stronger, wiser version of yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself, and don't give up hope. You are worthy of love, kindness, and respect from others and from yourself. If you've been through a similar experience, I want to hear from you in the comments below. And if you're just starting out, know that you're not alone. Thanks for tuning in today, and don't forget to subscribe for more relationship drama stories.